Hey, you guys, another installment of Adriana. This is my story for you. That's what you wanted. All right. When you give me that Amazon book. So, today's topic in your book is Dad Trivia. and it's got subtopics on it, right? First subtopic: what was your favorite ice cream? That's changed. I remember it was. I remember when it first came with mint chocolate chip. I think Johnny was around. Oh my God, we went crazy. We would eat just about a gallon of that stuff. But wow, mint chocolate chip was a favorite. One of the things that I liked was Susan and the projects coming over, and we had a butter pecan ice cream, and that was cool. Susan was my neighbor, and in the projects, um, Farragut Road housing projects in Brooklyn. Um, so, one of the questions here in this long, continuous videos and completing this book for my daughter is she gave me a book from Amazon saying, Dad, I want to hear from you. I want to hear your story. So, completing that. So, favorite ice cream? It changed because here also North Carolina tradition. I came to North Carolina in the 2000s. My mom's had a tradition here, and she had come first in the 90s. And her tradition was to go to good berries ice cream. I mean, they would, she worked and wanted to go get ice cream, even though she's spending a lot of money, big pop of money. I mean, easily $30 at times. But she wanted to go to Goodberries, and the ice cream that I liked there was different. It was the pistachio, the green stuff. So, and I try to institute that with my family also. When I started my family, we try to go to Goodberries, get some expensive ice cream. So, pardon the cough, by the way. It's just part of the disability. Coffee. Oh my gosh. Oh, but that's another subtopic in this thing. Um, so I remember Grandma. Grandma. Couldn't believe Grandma. Grandma would always drink black coffee and criticize her. Like, how the hell could you drink black coffee? My moms would do it every once in a while, but not like Grandma. And I swore up and down I would never drink black coffee. Guess what I got served today? My ex-wife came over. I've been sick. She brought me breakfast. Guess what she brought me? The black coffee I started to drink when she was around. And so, coffee. I remember my dad going to visit him in his apartment in Brooklyn, in Coney Island. And it was funny because he loved his coffee. My mom still loved my coffee, by the way. I make it different. I make it milk based, just about all milk and a little bit of water, whereas most coffee drinkers have water based with a little bit of milk. Big difference. Taste is real difference because it's Manolo's coffee. I used to go to Manolo, my cousin's father, and I love this coffee. And I looked one day, how does he make his coffee? Oh, he makes it out of milk, then adds instantaneous coffee to it, and it tasted good each and every time. Made me sweat to death each and every time. And what ended up happening is that I started doing it. I had to take care of my mom for about a year. She was here for several months, and started making it for her. Oh my sure she loved my coffee, and it was because I followed Manolo's recipe. So it wasn't my grandmother's recipe, where she just had black coffee, and it wasn't my father. My father, he didn't have coffee. He had sugar, sugar flavored with a little bit of coffee. That mug, you talking about tablespoons of sugar? At least 4 tablespoons of sugar in a little coffee cup with a little bit of coffee poured on top. And you wonder why he had diabetes. So it was coffee with your sugar, not sugar with your coffee. And it's funny because we went there with Liz a couple of times to visit, and that was crazy, dude. It's like when we first got the cup, I looked at Liz. Liz looked at me. Because after you get, drink the top off the coffee, all you got is just this syrup left over. What are you supposed to do with that? You supposed to drink that? You're like, what? Where's the rest of the coffee? It's just sugar, pure D sugar. And we drank it while we watched the roaches go around in his apartment. And it's funny because if I open up my bed, dad's refrigerator, all you had was those horrid fish and a 40 in the refrigerator. Horrid fish and 40. And so it's like you're getting coffee from a man who's got critters all over in the kitchen. It is what it is. If I could live anywhere in the world for a year, this has been my lifelong pursuit. Look, tell you the truth, I never expected to be in my 50s and still poor. I worked my ass off in school to get an education so I wouldn't be poor. But the education never ever came to disability. However, a lifelong dream of mine has been to go ahead and be in Lynchburg, Virginia. Why? In the U.S. here, that's supposedly the Christian hub. Don't want to go to Israel, Palestine, whatever, because I feel like God has provided a hub here in the U.S. And so I used to go out in the middle of the night to Danville, Virginia. Wanted to move out there, and with the ultimate goal to be within a driving distance of Lynchburg. Didn't want to necessarily live in Lynchburg, but wanted to be around there, so I could go out for coffee with some Christians and like-minded individuals. And this is, there's a controversy because Christian nationalism and the causing of the Capitol riots and calling for a holy war in the U.S. by the Billy G's of this world, the crazy ones. It is what it is. I mean, my whole thing is that I love people that are called by his name or say that they're called by his name. Whether you're black, white, I go to black churches, I go to Hispanic churches, I go to white churches. If you say you're called by his name, and I will try to fellowship with you. And so when you talk about where would you like to live, I've always wanted to be in that Lynchburg, Virginia area or within spitting distance of it. Eggs. You talking about tradition. Bluebird Diner, oh my gosh, used to go there almost every day before work. Get my platter, because it was scrambled eggs, home fries, bacon. Got it cheap, got it quick, ate, and went to work. And over here in North Carolina, New York Diner over here in Nightdale is one of the best places. Used to go there, already knew my order. I went there so much. Haven't gone there in a while, they've grown so much. So once they grew, it's just expanded. And the prices grew, that's what happened. And my income shrunk, so I haven't been able to go out there. But they always know my plate already, whatever. So, in terms of eggs or whatever, plates would be a breakfast, and people would know, especially my ex-wife. If he wants some breakfast, he probably wants it from New York Diner. I took who did we go out with? Oh my gosh. Was it my daughter? Yeah, my daughter. For my birthday past. Went to New York Diner. To go get my favorite dish. Um, cook or clean. Don't like doing any of those either. Cooking in or cleaning because I used to always go out to eat in New York, the Floridian, uh, with LaSue and Arch's Diner. We would just walk to Arch's Diner and just go eat. That's just fun stuff. The Floridian was where I used to take the bus to go get my flounder platter. It was like it was flounder served on a bit of rice and spinach or something like that. Mashed potatoes, mashed potatoes. It's good stuff. So, with reference to cleanliness, oh my gosh, that was in the projects. You have infestations of little critters, roaches and water bugs. Here's the thing. I would armor all the walls, armor all the cabinets, and so forth. So here's the thing: roaches need to have a surface they could climb. Armor all, car you make your shine. You know, stuff you make your cars to shine with. You spray it all over. They asked, what was it? Workers came here to do my floor the other day. They were surprised. And the guy told me, he's like, look, I don't understand. Dude, we've been in your house. And we've opened your drawers and been in for years. I haven't seen not one dead roach around here. I haven't seen anything in your drawers. No bugs coming out. He's like, what do you do? It's like, go back to tradition. Tradition is, I'm a raw. You know. They just can't climb the Amaral, and they hate it. And so, here's the thing: if they can't climb, they can't escape. So if they can't escape, they can only stay on the floor. And if they can only stay on the floor, they're easy to kill. So if one by chance gets in, it gets its light checked out. So in terms of cleanliness, it was interesting because I had it in the front door to my apartment, and I would come up to the second floor and look at other people's doors, and you see them coming in and out of other people's apartments. And I'm like, all you gotta do is armor all the front, around the front door. They can't climb. So if they can't climb, they don't want to come in. So that was one, and I remember I had it so clean in my apartment. I went from the first floor to the second floor, second floor was a handicapped apartment, accessible, which they renovated. They offered it to me because I was the first one, inaccessible one. And when I left the first apartment, it was so clean they rented it within 2 days. Didn't even repaint it or nothing. Walls were armor all, walls were clean. Because the other thing is, when I walk, I grab onto the walls. Dirty hands, because I use it to stabilize. But here's the thing, with armor all, if I put my hands on the walls, it's easy to wipe away. You're clean. Whereas if you just have paint and you put your hand on a wall, you're gonna have a stain. It's gonna be hard to take out, and you might have to repaint. Armor all, it's slick, it's clean. But the other thing is this: that if you put too much armor on, you're gonna fall. And I've had plenty of falling spells too, wherein I had just cleaned, put a fresh coat of armor on, boom ba boom, I went down. That, and remember, Roxanne stayed with us for a while. When I used to come home, she used to knock me down. Roxanne is my brother's, my sister-in-law's dog that stayed with us before we moved into North Carolina. And aside from the armor, the biggest danger was opening the door and finding her. She loved me to death and loved to little tongue kiss me. And so if I had to go to the bathroom when I came home, done deal. Wouldn't make it. Once I would open that door and she would rape me, put me to the floor, stick her tongue down my throat, and they would have to call her off. So that was funny. It used to be funny as hell. But that reminds me of my dog, Infinity. She's going crazy when people come over, especially Johnny. She will rape him in terms of like lick his face off, boys and everything. Um, Shoe size, poof, that's you don't talk about that no more. Shoe size you don't talk about because these feet now that I'm older, they swell. The bigger the shoe size, the bigger the shoe. Even if it's not your size, just as long as you got something on that's bigger than what. As long as you got something on that's bigger than my foot, but doesn't interfere with me being able to hit the gas pedal, that's fine. So I'd rather not talk about what shoe size. I mean, way back when, what was it, a 7.5 and an 8.5? Was one foot was bigger than the other. One foot was bigger than the other, but now it's like, you think I could fit an 8.5? I don't even know what shoe size I just like when I buy shoes. I'm like, I try to try it on at the store, whatever the size is, as long as while it's swollen, as long as it can fit, take it home. That's it. Superpower. I got a superpower. I got my reliance on God is like with all this political nonsense that's going on. People are panicking. Trump is doing this. Trump is doing that. You know what? You got to look at both sides. Some of this stuff, looking at the other side, the Democrats done gone crazy. Trump has done gone crazy. But my whole thing is during the whole thing, even through a divorce that I went through, during everything in my lifestyle, I depended on God, and God has, God delivered, made ways, and He will continue to make ways. It gets scary, but He's always come through. So just as long as you depend on God, that's what I'm saying is that, hey, look, if you don't have that faith and hope in God and don't pray and then think, dang, this is the first year I got admitted to the hospital for pneumonia for 4 days and stuff, 3 days. Not to give me longer, I didn't want to stay there, but it's like, it's crazy, God, without God. I've just made it to the emergency room right on time. So it's like, I had 103 fever, and my lungs were filled with double pneumonia, but filled with liquid to the extent my heart was beating like so fast it was about to have a heart attack. So the Almighty got me through. He's getting me through stuff. I believe Him. Thank God for Him being Him. But if you don't have trust, who's the superpower? There is no superpower. Prayer is a superpower. Faith and belief. And not only that, reliance. You can have all the ideas and thoughts about God, but if you don't rely on Him, actively put your hands in His hands, then you got a problem. Allergies. I remember working at the homeless shelter for men, and I had put some Neosporin on. Got to cut. Either I put it on or the nurse put it on as a first aid treatment, and dude, it bumped up. And I remember it's like, what the hell happened? It's like I never used to have that. The nurse said to me, I've never been allergic to Neosporin and all that stuff. They said, no, as you grow older, you will get allergies you didn't have, which is true. And so that was the beginning of allergies. And geez, that was the 2000s. It's grown. A lot of allergies now that I have. Rather than I mention it, but I just can't have the typical medicines that everybody else relies on. Over the counter drugs, the stuff they sell in pharmacies, that stuff throws me for a whammy. So I gotta be careful. Really careful what I take. And I used to not be, you used to just drink Robitussin and NyQuil and all that other stuff like no tomorrow. I mean, nowadays, whew, the biggest fear is not a fear. This book has different topics to go ahead and discuss, so I'm looking at the biggest fear. Biggest fear is the biggest disappointment. The biggest disappointment is this: is that I studied, put myself through college, didn't want to be poor person. So the biggest fear is the biggest disappointment. Um, Biggest disappointment being that after all the education, I still can't, or haven't had over 10 years worth of not having money and over 10 years worth of that education being null and void. But there is a caveat. Caveat is this: God has allowed me to go ahead and be available for my son and my daughter. So while, some parents or moms or dads wish I could have spent time with my mom or dad while I was growing up. You didn't have that problem with me because I was here because I wasn't working. So it wasn't like, oh, well, geez, I never saw my dad. No, you've seen your dad. And I was a stay-at-home dad for over 10 years. So right now it's trying to get back into the workforce and so forth. But not by choice either. So the disability can't be overcome. Discrimination is rampant. I mean, people see me, they're like, well, you believe you need to be in a nursing home, whereas other people like my daughter just realized, and my ex-wife like always says, your mind is the most valuable thing right now because you got a wealth of knowledge that other people don't have. So the biggest fear is a disappointment. Is that after all that education, null and void because of rampant discrimination against the disabled here by local government. So it's not the private sector, which is crazy because I'm subscribing to EEOC's daily news feeds. They they always highlighted, oh, we're suing this company, that company, and so forth. You never saw local governments being sued, but they're the most discriminatory people on the face of the planet. So, how does that work? I don't know. EEOC doesn't take on local governments, but takes on the private sector. But the local governments are just as discriminatory as the private sector. We hire our friends. So if you can get into a county or state position, we're going to keep it with our friends. EEOC does crap over. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. What would your last meal be? I just thankful for every meal that I got. I mean, you never know when God's going to call you off this world. So as long as you're thankful every time you eat, drink, and be merry, just be thankful. I mean, not talking about favorite meal and the last meal and so forth. The other thing is this: is that one of the topics here is have you ever broken a bone in your body? Yeah. 18, they smashed my pelvis to reform my hip socket. That's about as broken as I've ever gotten. Surgeries, which is I regret, because you fix one thing with surgery and you cause another problem altogether. Sometimes the problem you cause is worse than the original problem altogether. And so when you talk about broken bones, as this topic has, whatever. I remember the Superman though. Where we were playing on the playground rocket. I think I was 12. I jumped from the second level of the rocket. It was a stand-up rocket, you know, playground thing. And it had a slide, and I jumped from second level of the rocket down to the ground, hit the sand, clunk clunk, and I sprained my leg. About as close as I got to a broken leg. Lastly, favorite sandwich. This is ex-wife always used to hate this. When I would order my tuna fish sandwich, like, how could you eat that crap? And the kids, we used to have quick meal would be Subway's meatball sandwich, and now all of a sudden, meatballs are no good according to the kids, whatever. You know, y'all had us fat, whatever, and y'all, whatever. But my daughter asked me not too long ago, what do you do to that sandwich that you order at Sheetz? It was interesting. I would go to Sheetz, which is a gas station that sells sandwiches and food, and they had a value menu. Turkey sub, 6 inches. So I would order a turkey sub. Then I looked at the menu. Everything that was free. Yeah, like 10 different sauces. Try to pick a combination. Yeah, stuff like onions and olives added it to the sandwich. And so it would come out, and the people look at me like when they serve me, what the hell did you just do? You added everything. It would be moist. It wasn't a dry sandwich. It would goo out because it had so many sauces in there and so much sides. I mean, you know, your olives and whatever, and your onions, your diced onions, or whatever. That a turkey sub, $4 sub, was heavy as hell. Well, that's my 2 cents. My little story. This video installment of it. Again, the regrets are that as a person with a disability, to have pursued my education and ended up not, because education can't undo discrimination, and it's rampant. And here's North Carolina, Wake County is a small town type lifestyle. If you don't have friends in the government, you're not gonna get a job. Period. End of story. Oh. Coughing. Sorry. Thank you. Take care.